Good afternoon, everybody. I hope you're doing well. My name is Jonathan Edwards. I am the Chief Operating Officer of CyberWarrior Academy, and I want to thank you for joining us for this webinar today. Sort of a webinar slash discussion around career paths into cybersecurity. As many of you know, it is Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and we at CyberWarrior Academy, and as part of our partnership with the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, and other organizations, we really want to delve into during this month the career paths that are critical for cybersecurity. But we constantly are asking ourselves, why is there a talent gap? And how do we help solve for that talent gap? And perhaps most importantly, how do we help diversify the talent as part of the solution for the talent gap? Cybersecurity is an industry that has very little diversity in it, and it is why CyberWarrior is focused on, we will train anybody, and we want everybody to want to aspire to be in the career. But we do focus on women, persons of color, and veterans in that formula. I want to welcome today Dominic Sansone. Dominic went through our program. Oh, Dominic, what was it? 2 years ago now? Yeah, probably 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think we're at the two.
Yeah, and he was a strong student who demonstrated that aspiration that we know people need, and his story is a great one, and we want to help people understand what motivations they need, and what lack of experience they can withstand. No offense to Dom, to get into this field and not need an IT background and not need all these things that people feel they need, a college degree in computer technology or backgrounds in X, Y, and Z. The sky is the limit in terms of backgrounds, and we want to demonstrate that we can fill the talent gap. We can fill the talent gap with a variety of different people, and that there's no cookie cutter formula around that. So, hey, Dom, thanks very much for joining us. And I'm wondering, can you just give us a little background on where you work right now, what your title is, and what your daily responsibilities are?
Absolutely. Thanks a lot, Jonathan, for the intro. So I'm Dominic Sansone. I'm currently a Scrum Master at Travelers Insurance in Hartford. I know you're thinking like Scrum Master, that's not security, but I got a story to tell you about that whenever Jonathan's ready. But yeah, I'm really happy to be here. I'm also a U.S. Army veteran. I spent about 21 years in service, all over the planet, and was retired in 2016. So significant background. I do not have an IT background, to Jonathan's point, but I have a lot of real world experience and a lot that travelers realized very successfully, I might add, that I can offer to help them out.
So Dom, two questions on your military background. What rank did you rise to, and what were you doing prior to joining the Army?
So I was enlisted for about 6 years, and then I went to the dark side, as it was, and became an officer. I was medically retired. I reached the rank of lieutenant colonel before something happened in Afghanistan. I couldn't be a soldier anymore. What was the second part of that question?
It was, what were you doing prior to entering the Army?
I actually joined in between my junior and senior year of high school, so I wasn't doing much as far as professionally. So it's not like I was working for an IT firm and then I had this break. It's pretty much the Army.
So you rose to the rank of lieutenant colonel. There was no part of your job responsibilities that were IT related, or were there facets of it that were IT related?
So when I first accepted my commission, I was a U.S. Army signal officer, and that took me to Fort Gordon, Georgia for about 9 months to learn every single aspect of communications in the United States Army. So that's not only radio, but it was electronic warfare, counter warfare, IT. Basically, back then, it was pretty much the same thing as an A+ certificate. in that part of it. But basically, if it talks, I was a part of it.
Okay. So you had some technology responsibility, but no cybersecurity, as it were,
No,
responsibility.
nope.
Okay. Did you like it? Did you like the technology end?
It was amazing because instead of just having a career of standing in front of formation pointing at soldiers, I got a chance to deal with some of the most technical experts in almost every field of computers, whether it was Cisco routers, whether it was shooting radio signals off the troposphere across the planet, talking to satellites. The individual soldiers that I worked with were absolutely geniuses. And most of them left the military and got these really crazy six-figure jobs working for communications companies. Because when the Army trains you to do something, they don't. It's just like CyberWarrior Academy. There's no half-stepping. You get all of it, and you get it at a very professional level. So even though I was exposed to many different fields, and I wasn't necessarily an expert in any of them, but as my career in the military progressed, cybersecurity became a bigger and bigger threat.
And when you were in Afghanistan, and obviously this is recorded, so speak of what you can and don't speak of what
Sure.
you cannot.
I'd be happy to.
But when you were in Afghanistan, there must have been a lot of incidences where there's incident response that you're doing on a regular basis. How much of what you were doing in Afghanistan and prior to that related to what you experienced as a cybersecurity boot camp participant with CyberWarrior Academy?
Yeah. So on the civilian, I think there's a direct parallel there, Jonathan, because even in Afghanistan, it doesn't really matter where we are. We call it spillage. It's where you take, like in the military, it manifested itself where if we sent like an incident report on a raid or an attack, you want to make sure that's on the secure network. And sometimes, whether it's an email or just a simple photocopier that's not secured for top secret information or classified information, it's called spillage. And in cybersecurity, we see that a lot too. It may manifest itself that, well, just like with the MGM cyber attack, where the help desk sent out admin codes in plain text to get someone an account set up. In the military, we call that spillage. MGM, it was a multi-million-dollar mess up, and created this huge door for bad actors to get in. And in the military, it's absolutely no different. It's just the bad actors have different intentions other than financial theft. So there's a direct parallel, even though the locations may be different, the overall mission might be different. But what we've seen over the years is that cybersecurity used to be its own thing over in the corner, and now it's a part of everything we do in the military and in corporate America.
Okay. So forgive me, but it sounds like you almost stumbled into technology.
I did.
You were told to get into technology. You didn't choose to get into technology.
Well, until I met you at CyberWarrior, yeah, it was basically a afterthought. Because I mean, nobody really goes like, oh, I want to do cybersecurity. It's I wanted to jump out of planes and help people and do good things. But it's such an important part of the role that you can't really have one without the other anymore.
So think back to even before, you said you were, between your junior and senior year in high school.
Yeah.
What was your background? What was your childhood like? Was it one of privilege? Was it one of, oh my God, I'm shocked that I'm alive? What was it Ward and June Cleaver in Leave It to Beaver? What was it?
Yeah, so I don't know the demographics of the audience, but I'm Generation X, and I was a latchkey kid. And what that means, for those of you that don't know, is that I had one working parent, and that was it. So I don't know why it became a thing, but in the education system, you would have a shoelace, and on that shoelace would be a key to your front door. And so that's how after school I would get back into my house, and it just kind of became colloquially known as a latchkey kid. So basically, you spend more time by yourself than you do with a family. So definitely didn't have a senator for a dad. My dad sold cars, single parent family growing up. And it was interesting because, there was no such thing as mental health when I was growing up. No such thing. No one cared about how you felt about anything. There was no mass media. I'm so thankful there wasn't social media when I was growing up, but it was kind of a fend for yourself type attitude. I had a very loving father. I really cherish those moments, but it was not necessarily one of privilege, but it wasn't extreme poverty either. But we were close.
So when you entered the military, not knowing what you were going to be told to do once you got there,
Right.
you inevitably had some challenging times as you progressed through, or did it come pretty easily to you?
Yeah. So basically, a single family kid from St. Louis, Missouri, big metropolitan city, only child. And the cool thing about the military was that now I immediately had a giant family. So trying to position yourself where there was other people that could help take care of you when you were completely self-sufficient before, and just kind of softening the approach to just, I finally had a giant family for the first time. I didn't have to eat meals alone anymore. And there were people that were genuinely concerned about what I was doing and my welfare. And so that kind of helped me kind of fall in love with the military, and that's why I did it for so long. Was that you immediately have a family.
And did what your experiences were in the military help you determine that cybersecurity was the pathway that you wanted to pursue once you separated from the military?
Yeah, because a lot of my military assignments, I was at the forefront of most things. Like being a paratrooper means you can be deployed anywhere within the world within 18 hours. So you have to be constantly looking for threats and what's coming. You don't get the opportunity to just wait to see what shows up. And I think the transition to cybersecurity, I think that's the next. I mean, in my opinion, I firmly, and this isn't necessarily Traveler sponsored either, but I firmly believe cybersecurity is where the future is, because that's where the greatest risk is. Nobody's really robbing banks anymore, but they're definitely stealing crypto. So, just and that's kind of the nature too of being in the military for so long, is you become the servant leader. You want to help, and you want to anticipate rather than have to react. And I think that's kind of like a punchline for cybersecurity in a way, is that you don't have time to react. You have to prepare for everything. That's why we have honeypots. That's why we have firewalls. That's why we have all these things, is to protect. And I grew up protecting others that couldn't protect themselves. So cybersecurity and the CyberWarrior program is kind of in line with exactly that, helping protect other people when they can't protect themselves.
And this may be an answer that you say neither. What, and I get in the Army, you don't have this option. Were there times in the Army that you wanted to walk away because it was just hard, and carry that forward to CyberWarrior Academy in your experience for the 28 weeks? Were there times at CyberWarrior that you just wanted to walk away because it was hard?
Yeah, I know I'm supposed to be like this macho badass soldier, but the answer is yeah, absolutely. Stuff is hard. The commitment with CyberWarrior Academy from, what was it, 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. almost every day. That's a huge commitment. There's been plenty of times I've been on a run in the military where, 1 mile, 2 mile, 3 miles, you're like, is this ever going to be over? This sucks. That, you can't lose your humanity because you're afraid someone else is going to think you're weak. It's understanding the weaknesses that makes you stronger, not denying them. So yeah, there's definitely plenty times I've wanted to quit, and either, to your point, either I couldn't, or it just wasn't the right thing to do.
Why wasn't it the right thing to do? Not in the Army,
Sure.
but in CyberWarrior Academy. Because
You
we
know,
have people who
yeah,
want to quit all the time.
yeah,
Why wasn't it the right thing to do?
so first, if something is worth doing, it's going to be hard and you probably are going to want to quit. So once you get past that, um, to your point, I met such a diverse background of students in my cohort that I felt if I left, I would be leaving them high and dry. I felt like I would be disappointing them. And I also had ambitions of starting a career with this. So when you do the pros and the cons and you weigh it all together, I don't know if I could have lived with myself if I let my team down that I was with in that cohort.
So that's an interesting thing you just said, and I'm going to get to a question in a second, but I want to dovetail to it. It's interesting what you just said. You didn't want to leave your team behind.
Right.
A lot of people, I think, believe that if you're a student in a boot camp, you're an island unto yourself. It's you. You got to learn it, or you don't have to learn it. You got to apply for the jobs, and you're going to get the jobs, or you're going to get rejected. It's a very personal thing. You either understand the skill set or you don't understand the skill set. But what you just told me was that your experience at CyberWarrior, it was a real team environment where you relied on each other to pick each other up and to help each other learn the skills. Am I misreading what you just said?
No, and I think the people listening to this might think you paid me to say this, but you didn't. And if you did, it wasn't enough money. But yeah, there was such a bonding because just like in the military, misery loves company. So, when you're in the sawdust pit doing flutter kicks until you're ready to pass out, and you look left and you look right, and you see everybody else is sucking it just as much as you are. It's kind of a motivator. It kind of lets you deep down a little bit deeper, and you're like, I have to live with these people. I have to sweat with these people. I have to test with these people. Um, there's absolutely nothing wrong with saying it's hard and that quit thing's going to pop in, but it's not always just about you, right? It's I mean, at the end of the day it is, but these relationships I've made with my cohort, they're going to probably last just as long as my military ones are.
Are you still in touch with some people in your cohort?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, the diversity is huge because remember in the military everybody was in the same place, but there was nobody. I don't think there was anybody in my cohort that was even in New England. I mean, I'm currently in Hartford, Connecticut, but I mean, there were people from the Navy, from the Air Force, and even people that were civilians too, which was even more amazing. Because when you see someone that hasn't gone through the hard things that you've gone through in your life, whatever they are, and you see someone that's, I think the youngest person we had was maybe 19 or 20, and that dude was just crushing it. And I was like, well, I'm not gonna let this 20-year-old take everything. So it's motivator, but you have to be willing to be vulnerable. You have to open up and let yourself be a part of that. So yeah, we were technically students, but I think we were much more than that. And I think every cohort should be.
So let's leap forward. You overcame the challenges, you overcame the obstacles. You're looking for a career in cybersecurity. And I want to go back to what you said earlier. And I do think they're related, but I don't know as much as you do. You're a Splunk master. How does
Yeah,
that relate
Scrum.
to cybersecurity?
Yeah,
It's yeah,
interesting.
I said
Yeah,
Splunk. I shouldn't. I was in the
yeah, it's
cybersecurity
fine.
world here for a second.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah.
Yeah. Explain how it relates to cybersecurity and why your training did or did not help you succeed in the job you have today.
So being a Scrum Master is all about the agile methodologies, but that's just like four values and like 15 guidelines. So it's basically teamwork. So in a way, I get to go from being like a deputy commander to a small team leader again, which is fun. So I'm on a Scrum team of software engineers that make everything that Travelers does work. If you get on the Travelers app and you have a claim, my team wrote that. So I get to leverage what I learned at CyberWarrior, even though I'm not writing code. I'm actively participating with software engineers that sometimes cybersecurity isn't on their radar. So in some cases, I'm the annoying voice going, "Hey, we should probably be using HTTPS for this," when it wasn't even a consideration. and I'm going to pull something out of my pocket. Travelers gives awards to employees that say, "Hey, I think there's a problem here. You should fix it." And I got one of those coins. It's a cyber hero coin because I noticed a vulnerability in our VPN system, and I brought that to my leadership's attention. Of course, I can't say what it is or what it was, but they recognized a Scrum Master for kind of tightening the little fence for our cybersecurity. There's no way I could have done that without being in CyberWarrior. And like I said, I think cybersecurity now is universal. If you're fortunate enough to find a role that requires you to have that Sec Plus and that certified ethical hacking, which is amazing, by the way, that's great. But cybersecurity touches everything, whether we like it or not. So even if I don't care if you're the janitor, there's going to be vulnerabilities because humans are making code. So it's incumbent upon every member of that team to say, "Hey, I think there's a problem here," and I reserve the right to be wrong. Maybe it wasn't a problem, but Travelers was like, "Oh shit, thanks, Dominic. We really appreciate that. Here's a coin." And for an Army guy, we love coins, so that's better than money for me.
So yeah, I obviously software is an incredibly vulnerable activity. You're creating code. You're writing. You're creating stuff. If it's vulnerable, you're in trouble.
Yeah,
you're in trouble.
If you're lucky, you'll find out before someone else does.
Right. I don't know the SolarWinds story as much as well as some other cybersecurity people who have been around forever and they live and breathe this stuff. Not that I don't, but SolarWinds was a piece of software that got embedded into something that was sold, and it didn't launch for a few years. So when it happened, they're looking for something that was penetrated like last week.
Yeah.
It was placed years ago, and they waited.
And it was fascinating because when we dealt with Log4j, that was really just some hackers on a Minecraft server. That was like the entire industry almost came to a screeching halt.
I want to get to a question for a sec, but I want to follow up on that. What would have happened, or what did happen at Travelers in terms of your ability to operate because of Log4j? And for those of you who don't know, Log4j took place, December of last year, was it?
Maybe, yeah, it was right around that time.
Yeah. And as you said, it almost shut down the industry.
Yep.
What was the impact at Travelers, and what was the impact not just at the company, but for individual employees at Travelers?
Yeah, so that is like the attack surface for that is huge. So I'll try to narrow it down as best I can. So first, Travelers is a company, you're not going to see commercials where, we're making jokes and having fun. Travelers is a very conservative company that is very, very strict with their reputation and their ability. We have a mantra of we pay what we owe, and we're very conservative. So anything that impacts our ability to meet that mission, we pride ourselves in paying a claim that's a real claim as soon as we possibly can, because we know that customer relies on us because they're having one of the worst days of their lives, and we're here to help. Log4j could have prevented that from happening. I mean, the list of negative things that could have happened from, number one, disappointing our customer. That would be catastrophic to Travelers. And I think that's correct. But there's all the other things you don't even think of, like, oh, now we're going to get a federal fine. Now we're probably getting, we do insurance in all 50 states. Each state attorney general is probably going to come after us like they did big tobacco. We would lose customers. And Travelers isn't number one in auto, but we are number one in workman's comp. And there's a reason for that. We would have lost that. Any of our competitors that would have filled in that gap with Log4j first would have destroyed us. Because when you're number one, everyone, it's not, everybody's always gunning for it. Nobody cares what number two and number three do. They only want to go after the biggest fish. So, I could talk for hours of bad things that could have happened if we wouldn't have fixed that, but just reputation, financial. I mean, I think there's probably even more.
So we've talked that's fascinating because I don't think that everyone truly understands the impact that cybersecurity or a threat has on a company or an individual
Yeah.
or an individual, and it's just going to get magnified over the coming years. I want to go back to the comment you made about what prepared you for your current job. We have a question in the audience that what advice do you have for and you got to personalize this, take your experience.
I got you.
Now you're being asked for career setting advice here, Dom, and awesome. I'm having fun, but it's serious.
Right.
What advice do you have for a woman 35 to 45 years old trying to enter the cyberspace after being a program manager at a SaaS company?
Okay, first of all, I think you're perfect for this role. I would tell you that Jonathan, I started my cybersecurity career at 47, I think. Okay. 46, 47. Hell, I didn't go to college till I was 26. So I would tell you that age is only someone's going to tell you you're too old if they're afraid that you're going to do a better job than they will. That's number one. Will you run into that? Absolutely. I did. I ran into it a lot. I just didn't magically graduate CyberWarrior and get a job at Travelers. So whenever someone tells you, you're probably a little old, then walk away. As a matter of fact, no, run away. Run away. Because that person is afraid. Because what you bring to the table, with your age is life experience, which is important. And it's not, and I'm not trying to say that if you're 19 or 20, forget it, you don't have experience. It takes all types to make a team. Like I said earlier, my team was diverse. Women, men, I think a teenager, people that had careers in the Navy, the Army, the Air Force. Even in the Army, we don't want one person to look and do everything the same. So your age is a benefit, and you need to really stop thinking it's gonna hurt you, because it will not. You'll never be good enough for the wrong employer.
So now then take that though, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I also want to.
No, go ahead.
I want to connect to the SaaS part of it. She is, and I don't want to butcher the title. She's a program manager.
Perfect.
Why is being a program manager relevant to a career in cybersecurity? Just like why is being a paratrooper relevant?
Yeah, right. That is amazing experience being a program manager, because Scrum Master used to be called project manager, and apparently that's a 4-letter word in technology now. But the diversity that a program manager would deal with is just like what I've been answering questions to you about. Is it's not how well you know one thing, it's how well do you know all the things. And a program manager knows way more than just code, cybersecurity. Let's say it's a program manager for a golf course. You have to know about landscaping, you have to know about irrigation, you have to know about the bar and food and service and feeding and sanitation. If anything, Jonathan, I would say that being a program manager is a huge benefit, whether you're in a SaaS, it doesn't matter, is that you're telling your employer, hey, I know how to deal with a lot of things that aren't really part of the job. Because I think every role says other roles as assigned. One of the roles additionally I'm assigned, because I also have an MBA, is I'm doing the financial budget analysis for claim at Travelers. So, it's not something a normal Scrum Master would do. The day in the life of a program manager is very diverse, and that diversity is what makes you strong. It's not a weakness; it's a strength.
I was told a story once by someone who was incredibly frustrated with the project management in his cybersecurity team.
Yeah,
and he literally went out to find people who knew nothing about cybersecurity, which is trainable. The skills are trainable. Project management, you might be harder pressed to train someone in project management than you are in in packet analysis or in incident response.
Right. I mean, everybody loves Wireshark, but when it comes to those things, Jonathan, to your point, I completely agree with you. Is that it's not the knowns that make you beneficial. It's how you perform with the unknowns.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can show diversity, that's great. But you know what? If you're a master Wireshark packet analyst, that's important too. So it really isn't just I wish I had this one thing, then everything would be great. I don't really know if that exists.
If to the person who asked the question, what we train at CyberWarrior is you need to be ready. You need to ready yourself to tell a hiring manager why you're a value add to his or her team tomorrow when they hire you. And project management is so hard, and it's in a SaaS environment, so it's not like it's completely removed. You were more removed in the Army than someone who's in a SaaS environment is removed.
Yeah, I mean, we have our own internet, so
okay. So if you can demonstrate, and so if you can go into a hiring manager and say, this is what I will do for you on day one, because you don't have the project management skills that I have. And on top of that, I now have all these newfound cybersecurity skills. I have experience in a technology environment. I now have training in cybersecurity. Training, by the way, that is the equivalent to digging into master's level work in cybersecurity in a graduate level. Certainly as much information as you would gain in college, which, by the way, and it's beyond theoretical, it's lab, it's practical application, it's sort of a Harvard School's case study methodology. But you have the experience that nobody else does. And if you can demonstrate you also have practical application to cybersecurity skills, you can sell yourself. You have to learn how to sell yourself, but you can sell yourself.
And Jonathan, I would tell you, the only thing I would add to that is that there's lots of places you can get, certificates and cohorts, but CyberWarrior is definitely better positioned than most, and you have to become an expert. You're being trained by people that have forgotten more than I'll ever learn at CyberWarrior for a reason. You not only to be competitive in the market, like one of the reasons I even got considered by travelers was because just what you said. They were like, oh, wait a minute. He's got a ton of leadership skills and we appreciate and respect that as a veteran, but look, now he has current up-to-date cybersecurity training from a reputable organization, and he's actually pretty good at it. So you have to find the right place, and then you have to apply yourself twice as hard as anybody else, or like someone that just got out of college with an emphasis in this. But that's with the work comes the reward. And I'm working at a Fortune 100 company in a technology value stream, and if you take away CyberWarrior, you would ask, why the hell is this guy here? There's really nothing he has that we want or need. And so if I didn't pay attention, and if I half-stepped throughout my CyberWarrior, and I didn't do my labs, and I didn't participate in class and study with other members of my cohort, I don't think I would be at a Fortune 100 company in cybersecurity as a Scrum Master. I don't think it would happen.
When you say that, it makes me wonder, was there a specific element of the CyberWarrior experience that most prepared you for your job at Travelers in terms of training? We're looking at theories of training and practical application of training. What when you look back on your 28 weeks, was there
it
one?
Feels a lot longer. It was 28. It felt a lot longer.
Well, it may be, but you were lost when it ended. You didn't know what to do with yourself when it ended.
Right. I slept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was the one? Is there one thing that were like, wow, I utilized this experience at CyberWarrior more than any other experience, or maybe there isn't one. I'm curious.
I don't know if I could put my finger on just one, but um, like look, we're all adults on this chat, so there's companies that'll take your money and give you a certificate all day, every day for doing no work. I think CyberWarrior is uniquely positioned in that you have subject matter experts that could potentially be making high six figures in the corporate America. They're taking time to teach us. They're teaching you. Um, Understanding that humility and being humble of listening to someone that has done this for a lifetime and gone through everything from punch cards to 5600 baud modems to gig speed internet, and taking the time to listen to their anecdotes and being conscious enough to put that all together and tie it to the lesson. I mean, if that's kind of the magic sauce, that's kind of a part of it for sure. But I don't know if there would just be one thing.
Okay. When you think about your life today,
Right.
you're travelers, you have hobbies, whatever it is.
Right.
What is different in your life today more than anything else that you would not have were it not for, never mind CyberWarrior Academy. I don't want to just focus on the company, but cybersecurity in totality. What is your life? How is your life different because you chose to enter the field of cybersecurity?
The biggest thing, Jonathan, as a matter of fact, I was talking with my wife about this just last night. Whenever you hear on the news of a cyber attack, you're able to pull it apart and see what happened, even though you're not there and you don't have access to I mean, obviously, I don't have pseudo level access to MGM, but um, being able to analyze that attack from a news story, take it back to the office and go, hey, boys and girls, have we looked at this? Because this seems like, um, the help desk kind of did something really weird here. Is this how we operate? And you can take that back to your employer and you can at least ask the question. Now, obviously, you don't run in there going, all right, boys and girls, put down the umbrellas. We got to stop right now and deal with this. But just start talking to those people that you have relationships with because you can speak the language. And CyberWarrior, if I didn't have that training and that education, I wouldn't be able to understand what the news is actually telling me. Like with that MGM attack, it's like, oh, wait a minute. This isn't some dude in a black hoodie in a dark room somewhere in the Eastern Bloc. It was their own help desk. And the way that they were dealing in their policies and procedures for sending account access, I can assure you today is completely revamped. And Travelers is going through the exact same thing.
So then, and by the way, to the audience, I would welcome questions in the Q&A section of the Zoom room, of Zoom Town, as they say. If you have questions for Dom, we would love to hear them. Okay, there's not one thing that you had as part of your student experience training.
Right.
What do you think, at CyberWarrior, we need to, we don't want to, we need to always pivot. We need to be on the cutting edge of what needs to be trained tomorrow. And again, no one's going to train for a year in a boot camp. You're going to train for 28 weeks, and that's going to be it, because there's a shelf life to how many nights you're going to give up.
Right.
And there's also a shelf life to how much you can intake in your mind over a short period of time in a boot camp style.
By the way, basic training is just 9 weeks. So
okay.
There's a reason.
We got basic training beat.
Yeah, you do.
So where do you think the industry needs to go with what's next in training? Is it AI? Is it whatever it is? What's next in training that you think is critically important based upon your experience at Travelers and just how you've grown professionally?
Without hesitation, I would say AI. Not only AI as a threat, but AI as a benefit. one of the things that Travelers were working on is called straight through processing, where our goal is as soon as you push submit on your app for your car accident or your hail damage to your roof, we get you paid absolutely as fast as we can. And that means less humans touching it. So that means we have to have really good AI. Because remember, like I said, the FBI says that 10% of claims should be fraudulent. So we have to be willing to pivot on AI on not only how to maximize the business and the threat models, because everything good that we come up with, there's a bad actor doing the exact same thing. So the future in AI, not so much being an AI engineer, but like to my friend that was a program manager, the question of, well, instead of leveraging 7 people to do this role, can I assist them with their duties by taking care of some, like a Travelers, we call it toil. Everybody loves spreadsheets, but there's probably better ways to get information. So how do we leverage that? And the beauty of AI is that you don't have to buy something off the shelf. You can actually generate it yourself. So you don't have to have a capital expense. You don't have to have a marketing pitch. You don't have to be, co-partnered with Oracle anymore. So using AI to maximize what you're doing and augment humanity is huge for corporate America right now. It wasn't something they even talked about 3 years ago.
Okay. I'm going to shift gears a little bit. And you're a unicorn a little bit because you have an MBA.
Thank you.
But if you had decided not to go into cybersecurity, what would you be doing today if you have a crystal ball? And again, I'm going to ask the same question. And would your life be different from a day-to-day lifestyle? What do you think you'd be doing, and would it be different?
So that's a really good question, because especially with those of us that aren't in our 20s, the military gave me I was injured in combat, so I've got a medical retirement. I don't know if I would be in the civilian workforce today because I don't know what value I would have for them. Of course, I'm a great guy. I get along with teams really good, but the reason I'm not at home on the couch is because I have an ability and training to continue my mission of helping other people. I don't know, because there's a lot of frustrations going from 20 years in the Army to being a civilian. The Army spent 20 plus years making me a soldier and about 2 weeks turning me into a civilian. So not only do you have problems of, oh, I think I'm old to be starting something new, or, I'm different. I don't know if I didn't have training in cybersecurity, I don't know if I could adapt to civilian culture because I just was never a part of it. And I think that's what's so amazing about the education that you offer, is that it gives anyone the opportunity who applies themselves the ability to be immediately relatable. Being a soldier and being a veteran, I'm not really relatable to a lot of people. And it's helped me grow and kind of create that next chapter of my life, instead of just, sitting on my ass and making a minimal existence and playing Xbox all day.
Well, if you were playing Xbox all day, you'd be like my kids, and that would be weird because they're a lot younger than you are. So
it's not unusual for a soldier to regress to childhood. So,
so it's a fascinating thought about what ifs. Life is filled with what ifs.
Right.
Do you ever talk with you said you were in touch with your fellow cohort members?
Yeah.
Do you ever talk about how you can help each other grow, how you can help each other, if there's a career trajectory that you're looking at, or if they're looking at, do you have those conversations, or is it more about, hey, can you believe that every playoff series last night was 2-0, and there are no games on Friday night like the network's planned? I mean, what do you talk about, and do you help each other like that?
Yeah. So it's interesting because when we all finished the program, we were all like, okay, whoever gets the job first, you got to get us in. And so now, as more time has passed, it's become more of mentoring and coaching each other. Because like, look, I can give anybody's name to a traveler's recruiter, and that's not a magic button like we thought it was. Because I'm gonna keep it G-rated, but HR is HR, right? So we've all heard about like the resume firewalls and the software they use to filter. It's extremely difficult, maybe even unnecessarily so. But being a mentor, being a coach, and helping and taking ownership of someone else's future and helping them invest what you can is definitely kind of where the relationship is now. Because again, at first it was like, hey, who's got a job? Where do you got a job? Give me that job. And I think the natural progression is to, as you start acquiring roles, you start it kind of changes a little bit, because there is a shortage of cybersecurity professionals. It's not just a tagline for CyberWarrior to try to get students. It's a growth industry, whether we like it or not. A lot of companies are going from offshore talent to in-person talent to remote talent, and they're not going to give the keys to the kingdom to a contractor that's 2,000 miles away anymore. So it's getting a job is difficult. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Doesn't matter if you're a medically retired combat veteran from the United States Army who thinks you can coast on life and just get whatever you want. It's a challenge and it's hard. And anything worth achieving and accomplishing is always going to be hard. So as much as I would have liked for CyberWarrior to be the magic bullet and immediately get hired on, day one after graduation, it's just not the reality. So you have to be willing to accept that, and then you have to plan for it, and understand that's what's actually happening. And we've had that discussion way more than we have, hey, you got any of them jobs? So that's kind of where it is. And the roles keep changing. I mean, it's not going to stop changing. It's not like being a chemist where organic chemistry is organic chemistry. The laws of physics are still the laws of physics. That's great. Get a PhD in physics. You're not creating any new information. Almost every day there's something new. 3 years ago, we didn't know what Log4j was. It was just some stupid thing that was on a Minecraft server that let people talk while they're playing a game. And like, it wasn't even a fancy game. It's an 8-bit game. It's like, come on, we can do better. So it's always changing. So if the role is Scrum Master, you're like, no, I want cybersecurity, you should probably look at Scrum Master. If the role is level 1 help desk, you should probably look at that too. It really matures and rapidly advances and evolves. Like I said, I'm a Scrum Master at Travelers. I've been there for 2 years. I love the company. I'm never going to work for any other company than Travelers. But I'm working on the budget for Claim now. And that's what the company needs, and that's where I have my value right now. Tomorrow, I might be in the network operations center in cybersecurity looking at tier 1 threats. But you just have to roll with it. The days of spending 50 years in the same job doing the same thing are probably over.
If you had, you got hired as a Scrum Master.
I did.
What would your response have been if Travelers had said, Dom, we love you, but you know what? You're going to spend the first 6 months of your existence with us as a tier 1 help desk person, because that's what we feel you need to do to get into, to be a value add to us in cybersecurity or in Scrum or whatever it is. You were 47, you said.
Yep.
Would you have done it?
I would have hated it, but I would tell them, be prepared to have your very best tier 1 help desk operator you've ever had. And I would constantly prove it to them. I wouldn't just say it. I would prove it to them every day I worked there.
And you think it would have been a good testing ground and proving ground for you to show your mettle?
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, Jonathan. It'd be a huge punch in the face.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've been hit in the face before. So, yeah, and again, it goes to that servant leader mentality. And, if that's it's just like with the Army. If the Army said, you know what, Colonel, we need you to be a foxhole digger, I would dig the foxhole because I love what the organization does and I fully support it. So that ego thing has to be checked at the door. Has to be. Because like I have an MBA as well. So, I could be like, oh, how dare you? I have an MBA. I don't do tier 1 help desk. That's fine. You can go ahead and go work for Geico or some other place, but you're not going to work at Travelers.
Right. So we're getting close to the end.
Okay.
And I've sort of gone off the cuff for a while in this conversation. It's been a great conversation. Certainly not anywhere close to a script. What should I have asked you? What should I have asked you?
I think what would resonate most was CyberWarrior really worth it? Was it the right choice? And I think the answer to that was I didn't know at first because there's another story I won't get into, but I kind of drug Jonathan through the dirt before I joined CyberWarrior because my guard was up. So if you want to know more about that story, I would ask Jonathan what the details were. But I learned that being cynical isn't always the best thing. So Jonathan actually stood up to my fearless first round of attack, responded, understood, re-engaged, and I was like, okay, these guys kind of know what they're doing. They're not just doing some fly-by-night, course where they just take your money and they don't give a shit. So, and then restarting is like, is a CyberWarrior certificate from that cohort going to get me to where I want to go? And without hesitation, I can tell you it's the only reason I got into Travelers. And by the way, that took me 1 year. And I had a mentor that was a former Army officer that was at Travelers. I got to know him. There's all these companies that truly want to help you. American Corporate Partners, for those veterans out there, I highly encourage you to go to them. ACP, or American Corporate Partners, is a nonprofit that connects executives to veterans looking for a career. There's many other outreach opportunities for those that aren't veterans. You're just as important as we are. But that was the thing that I would want to ask any alumni of this program was like, well, was it worth it? And it's a resounding yes. I think that would be the one thing if I go back in time to win, which we all know is impossible in physics. But if I could do that, that would be the first question before I chose CyberWarrior.
Well, I appreciate that, and I do have. I'm not sure I'd use the word fond, but I have very very positive memories of those initial conversations. This is part of the admissions process, and they helped you grow, they helped us grow, and that's what it's all about. And we were willing to say, we've got some differences here. Not differences, that's not fair, but whatever adjective you want to use, or and I told you, if you stick this out, you trust us.
Yep.
It'll be worth it. And that's the one thing that I always tell the students.
Right.
If you're not going to trust us to execute on the strategy that we've designed on your behalf,
yep,
don't take the program. Don't take the program, because it's 28 weeks. If you're going to put the laptop under your pillow and think that's how you're going to learn, if you're going to show up to class 2 or 3 times a week, if you're not going to initiate and engage with employers, if you're not going to trust us, don't take the program. But if you're going to trust us like you did, take it, and you're crazy not to. And yeah, that sounds like a 1-800 infomercial. I get it. But
Yeah. If anyone's curious, I did apologize to Jonathan and our humble CEO for what I drugged them through. But yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, you got to be vulnerable. And you know what? Sometimes you get bit, and it's learning from that. I mean, I can talk about my mistakes way more than I can my successes, because if everything goes right and you have no issues and no turmoil, probably didn't learn anything.
right, right. Okay, Dom Sansone. Hey, thank you. You're a
This was
true
awesome.
friend.
I appreciate it.
This
Thank you.
has been a lot of fun. The hour has flown by. We have a lot of people in the audience, but I guess we did a good job answering all their questions. Um, and please, if anyone is in the audience and wants to learn more about CyberWarrior Academy, follow up on things that Dom said, please be in touch with me or my staff, and we will engage with you, and we will help you understand whether this is a pathway for you or not. But just like the person who asked the question about career changing, and by the way, almost every single one of our students is in a career change. The 20-year-old that Don talked about is very rare. It is. We are a career change training boot camp. So there is a place for you if you enjoy the topic, and if you think that it gives you the lifestyle that you want. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of failure, because you will hate it sometimes, and you got to persist. But please be in touch with us if you have any questions. And thank you for attending. And Dom, thank you. And we will be in touch soon.
Yeah, and again, I work at Travelers. I'm there. If you're part of the CyberWarrior family, you're part of my family, whether you like it or not. So go through Jonathan. I'd be happy to help you get through the HR. And there's lots of places out there, and I'm sure they would be honored to have you.
Great. Well, thank you. That's very kind, very generous. And happy Cybersecurity Awareness Month, everybody. Take care, everybody. Thanks, Dom. Bye.